Yesterday, a bombshell of a report was dropped in regards to the toxicity of the Houston Rockets culture with James Harden as their centerpiece. Now, a part of me, whenever I see reports like this, and I wasn't really able to tell you this in the video yesterday, whenever I see a report like this, I am a little skeptical. Is this report leaked out by a specific individual that's trying to lower James Harden's trade value in order to get his hands on him? Could that be what's truly happening here? Because today we got some additional information that might crack this James Harden thing wide freaking open. So what's going on, guys? Your boy Mike here, back again with our second video of the day. So if you haven't subscribed and turned on our notifications yet, make sure you do so for a chance to win a PlayStation 5, and do your boy a favor and slap a like on that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro.
But I don't think they realized James Harden was as good as he is now, right?
That's correct. To be fair, I don't know if anyone did. We put all our assets in to trade for him, but no one could anticipate he'd be the best player in the world. Like,
why did you put all your assets? Why him?
So both the eye test, because he looks amazing. I think anyone would watch him. But if you looked at data at the time, once he had the ball in his hands, and it's still true to this day, and I get a lot of shit because someone asked me who's a better scorer, him or Michael Jordan, and it's just factual that James Harden is a better scorer than Michael Jordan.
Based on the math. Based
on literally, like, you give James Harden the ball, and before you're giving up the ball, how many points do you generate, which is how you should measure offense. James Harden is by far number one in NBA history, and he was number one even at the Oklahoma City Thunder. He was coming off the bench. It was a little more hidden. So you needed good data to sort of suss that out.
Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, we were really freaking close to almost going a whole day without making a video on James Harden. I was literally working on some content for TheFlightMike TV, doing a career simulation on Obi Toppin. But here's what happened as I was doing it. Shams Charania hit us with a bombshell. And once he hit us with the bombshell, I thought about the video we made yesterday on the article that Tim McMahon dropped on us in regards to the toxic culture of the Houston Rockets, that James Harden, essentially, it's a 16-minute video, and I highly recommend you go watch it. I'll leave a link to it in the end screen, but essentially, the gist of the video was James Harden would play remarkably, dropping 50-point triple-doubles, and then when he had 2 to 3 days off, he would go fly out to somewhere else to go party, then he would come back. And when it came time for the NBA playoffs, this lackadaisical type of behavior that kind of made James Harden seem like he wasn't super motivated to his other Hall of Fame teammates such as Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul is what eventually alienated these superstar teammates. Now, you have to think about it for a second, because the information I'm about to give you is going to tie everything all together, and this is why you guys should definitely be subscribed to this channel, because I don't think any other ESPN reporter would ever tie 2 and 2 together for you guys this quickly. You see, yesterday we got this very deep dive on how quote-unquote horrible the culture was in Houston, which I don't think is nearly that bad compared to some other cultures. If you compare James Harden to other superstars, think about what franchises had to do in the past to appease LeBron James or to appease other star players that didn't demand a trade. I believe that this report came out for a reason, because also a couple days ago there was this report that came out, and this is a little bit less reputable, in regards to a Ben Simmons trade that said the Philadelphia 76ers would have to trade Ben Simmons and 3 first-round picks to get their hands on James Harden. Now, you see, here's where things get a little interesting, because originally the Philadelphia 76ers really want James Harden, right? Daryl Morey was James Harden's general manager, and I just showed you a clip, the infamous clip of how James Harden is perceived by Daryl Morey. We're talking about a general manager, which, shout out to Daryl Morey, he follows us on Twitter, but a general manager that perceives James Harden statistically and analytically as the greatest offensive player of all time. Better than Michael Jordan. You heard it from the man's mouth himself. Now, if you perceive a player to be better than Michael Jordan, yet you have a 24-year-old former number 1 overall pick that is a perennial all-star, are you going to want to give up that 24-year-old and 3 first-round picks in order to secure the player that you perceive as Michael Jordan? Probably not. But here's the kicker over here. Who was James Harden's general manager throughout the entirety of his career? Daryl Morey, which means, who do you think that Tim McMahon got all of this information about the Houston Rockets from? You guys see where I'm going with this? You see, the asking price for James Harden, who is without a doubt one of the greatest isolation scorers of all time, it was ridiculously high. Ben Simmons and 3 first-round picks when Ben Simmons is 7 years younger than James Harden. And Houston's trying to clearly make up for the amount that they lost in the Chris Paul trade. But you see, when you leak out an article about how quote-unquote toxic the Houston Rockets culture was, well, all of a sudden, I don't think the Houston Rockets are going to be asking for as much in order to secure James Harden. Then on top of that, if you have James Harden act up a little bit and make it clear to the media, well, I don't think the Philadelphia 76ers are going to have to give up nearly as much for James Harden.
James, what was the point that you were trying to get across when you went to Atlanta and Vegas when training camp was starting?
I was just training.
What were you training for?
Started the NBA season.
How did going to Atlanta and Vegas help you there when the Rockets were starting training camp in Houston?
Just my personal trainers.
According to Wham Bam Shams Charania, we got a bombshell of a report, guys. The Philadelphia 76ers have made Ben Simmons available in some packages with the Houston Rockets for James Harden. Now, conversations aren't fluid as of now, but I thought it was super important for you guys to understand how we got to this point. Everything happens for a reason. There was a reason why this report came out yesterday, and it's because Daryl Morey, in my opinion, is playing chess over here to try to reacquire the player that he perceives to be the greatest offensive player of all time. This is my hunch, because things aren't typically coincidental when it comes to the NBA and making packages like this. Things don't happen by chance. Daryl Morey knows what he is doing here, guys. The more I think of it, the more sense this trade makes for me. Think about it. For the Houston Rockets, you already have John Wall on your roster. You have DeMarcus Cousins. You have Christian Wood. You have a brand new head coach in Steven Silas. You're trying to move forward with a brand new era of Houston Rockets basketball. You don't mind playing an up-tempo style of offense, but James Harden is 31 years old, and I've said this many times. They probably should do whatever it takes to move on from James Harden as soon as possible before his trade value begins to take a tumble. And here you have a general manager who loves James Harden, who is willing to part with a significant asset, in my opinion, in order to bring him onto the roster, and a fantastic opportunity to acquire your next franchise cornerstone for the next 6 to 7 years. Imagine the pick and roll with James Harden and Joel Embiid. The Philadelphia 76ers already have an ideal supporting cast for James Harden in play there. They have Danny Green, they have Seth Curry, they have multiple players that can make it rain from 3. I think it's only a matter of time before we see a crazy trade happen, so make sure you're subscribed and turned on my notifications for that, and let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this potential trade. Aside from that, I'm your boy TheFlightMike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.